Today I want to talk about the UFC Hivemind. Now this Hivemind doesn't actually have to do with the fighters, but instead the community. Now in my videos, I typically try and stay a little more on the casual side. I don't like to get too inside ball. However, today I think I'm gonna have to. Because like I said, today's video is covering a sect of the MMA community. But if you're not already a part of the community and know what I'm about to talk about, you'll be familiar after this video. So within the community, I've noticed a lot that there's a large group of people, and I would like to say large minority or large minority, but to be honest, I'm not really sure how many people are in this community, because the thing about them is, large or small, is they're vocal. And so since they're so vocal, I do think that it kind of feeds itself where people find these takes and they just believe them because it's giving in a social programming, and I'll get into that later. But you'll notice that these opinions and these takes and these narratives that this sect of the community talks about, they're very like chronically online type of takes. DDP beating Chimaev is an example of this UFC Hivemind. There was this big narrative that DDP is gonna win by this. It was like DDP by falling piano, you know, like some freak accident would happen, because DDP has a lot of fluke wins, you know, wins by chance, but not really, because he's actually a skilled fighter. But he's simply not as skilled as Khamzat Chimaev. And so granted, yes, when people are saying, oh, DDP by fucking inflating his bicep and smacking Chimaev with a comically large hammer, it's like, yeah, they're being like facetious a little and like half joking. But it's like, no, like there was so many people who thought DDP was actually gonna win. And I feel like you're only thinking that because you're hearing what other people say and you're giving into it. And that's really why I think this is a good point that falls in my overarching theme. My next example is a really good one. I want to talk about Ian Garry. So Ian Garry is like top 3 contenders right now, and he's definitely one of the most skilled UFC fighters, not right now, but of all time. And people don't seem to like him for some reason. I think these reasons are because he's a brash personality, he's loud and he's cocky. And this is true, but it's not in the way that the fighting nerds are loud and cocky. It's more in a, I know I got it type of way. I know that I'm one of the best fighters in history type of way, you know? It's not so prideful. It's just more so confidence in yourself. I think a lot of the hate for Ian Garry started in the lead up to his fight with Neil Magny. When Neil Magny caught a case, I believe it was for drunk driving and having a firearm on him, and he had a mugshot for this. And Ian Garry had printed out merchandise with Neil Magny's mugshot on it, and people like soyed out over this. But it's like, yeah, it is a little disrespectful, I can't lie, because it's kind of like kicking someone when they're down. But it's like, man, Neil Magny committed crimes. He was like riding around drunk with a Uzi on his lap is what I believe it was. It's like, okay, Ian Garry's just having some fun with it, playing up the embarrassing moment in his life. And that is really good at selling a fight though. You know, Ian Garry's doing his job perfectly. He's doing like the UFC's job for him by promoting the fight. You know what I mean? That's great PR. And it worked, obviously, because now I'm talking about it. So many people talked about it at the time. This one wasn't so popular, but leading up to the Islam JDM fight, Ian Garry was the backup fighter for if either one of them pulled out. And Ian Garry, if I remember correctly, had left chocolates outside of JDM's hotel door and left a note saying, good luck with your fight. And obviously, like, it's being a little like funny and cocky, but I think it actually was meant to be nice, but it is a little funny because it's like chocolates, the guy's trying to make weight. You know, it's like a little bit of an asshole move, but I think well intended. And JDM's response to this was to say something about Ian Garry's kid. Like, what a bad ratio of what Ian Garry did to versus what JDM did. Like, bro, some guy plays a little joke on you being kind of cute and funny, and you fucking like go after the guy's kid. Like, that's pathetic. And it's like, I feel like nobody got mad at JDM for saying that, because there was a big push for JDM to win this fight, which he was inevitably going to lose, which is actually funny. I mentioned this because it's like another narrative that people just buy into because they're botted, but I'm not trying to talk about that. Anyway, it's like, yeah, people like JDM and people don't like Ian Garry, so they just hate on him for that and totally gloss over the fact that JDM said anything about Ian Garry's kid over a sweet, innocent joke. He's not only a nice guy, but he's a cool guy that undeservingly gets the hate because of this Hivemind. Remember when he beat Carlos Prates? That step on the cigarette emote, that's hard as hell because Carlos Prates smokes cigarettes, so that's why Ian Garry did that victory emote. And the biggest thing of all about Ian Garry's hate strives from a rumor that his nutritionist is his wife's ex-boyfriend, which I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but I don't think that's true. But even if it was true, it's like, bro, don't you think that would make the nutritionist a cuck? Because at the time they were living in the same house, I believe. So it's like people are going like, yo, Ian Garry, this is crazy. How are you gonna be living in the same house with the guy that was plowing your now wife? But it's like, okay, first of all, it's not true. Second of all, wouldn't that make the nutritionist a cuck for living in the same house of the guy that's now plowing your wife and has a kid with him. That's crazy. Which is what I think JDM said. I think JDM said that's not your kid. So disrespectful. And it's like, bro, Ian Garry's the nicest guy ever. I'm gonna show this clip of Jalen Turner talking about Ian Garry.
I know after you shortly retired, you went to corner Ian Garry in one of his fights in April. What was that experience like, and what did you learn from someone like him?
Man, I forgot about that. That one, that's a good one too. So when I went to go help Ian Garry, it was so good. You know, so good. Like being around his family, being around his team, feeling the love that was radiating from everybody. Like he was driving. I don't drive to our fight week. I say, hey, coach, you drive me. I can't even gather a sentence sometimes. So he was driving, like doing all this stuff, just having a blast. Like his son was awesome, and it just showed me a light. It really showed me a light, and they really told me like I should just just put away all the distractions because I'm too talented and too good to hang it up now. Everybody kept saying that, and I was like, I don't want to fight. Like, I felt so much more at peace when I was in his corner and I was watching him fight. I said, I definitely don't want to fight again. I was like, I'm okay. Like, yeah, y'all do that. And lo and behold, after that, I got back in the gym. I just started training. It's like, I'm gonna just start training, help the guys around me, and yeah, that was a big pivotal moment actually.
I'm gonna leave it on that. Like, you seen that clip. Like, tell me, Jalen Turner seems like a nice guy, and that's what he used to say about another nice guy like Ian Garry. Like, bro, like that should change your mind right there, that clip alone. The biggest and worst example of this UFC Hivemind has to do with the greatest fighter of all time, Jon Jones. He's the greatest fighter of all time. I believe still the youngest champ ever. Had a really long career too, great resume. And people hate on him for the following reasons: failed drug test, accusations of domestic violence, having fights rigged for him, and being gay. Straight up, that's one of the reasons people hate on Jon Jones, is for being gay when he's not. This narrative of Jon Jones being gay comes from this one YouTuber who made a slander video on Jon Jones being gay. And the evidence was that drunk at a comedy night, he was making gay jokes to the comedian on stage. Like, that is so stupid, bro. The guy's drunk making gay jokes. First of all, everyone's done that. Second, he's heckling the comedian with gay jokes. Like, that's what you're like supposed to do at a tiny shitty venue for comedians, right? If you have, or you were to see like how the fan base talks about this, it's like, bro, you guys would be like, man, you're really worried about a gay guy like that. Like, it makes you think, you know, the people most insecure about it are typically projecting, you know. That's really what it feels like. It's the same energy. And then there's this huge double standard of people hating on Jon Jones for failed drug tests, which is crazy because yes, as true and unsportsmanlike as it is, it's a very common occurrence. Not failing for drug tests, but using PEDs in MMA, super common occurrence. And people get caught for it all the time. Anderson Silva, I believe, was caught twice. Merab's never been caught for it, but he definitely uses PEDs. It's like basically common knowledge. O'Malley failed test, but everyone seems to love O'Malley just as much as any other fighter. However, people hold this higher standard for Jon Jones for the failing the test, you know? And then a big part of this is the DC fights with Jon Jones, right? Because he cheated and won the fights with that way, and that was a big narrative DC created. But it's like, man, DC was using PEDs as well, right? This isn't a failed test, but it was recorded that DC had the same testosterone as a woman. That's like clear evidence of androgynous testosterone use, because since it's androgynous, your body isn't producing it, so it crashes, and then that's when you go test, right? And that's why it's so low, like a woman. A huge thing about Jon Jones hate, probably just as equally big as the failed drug testing, is Jon Jones' domestic violence. Thing is, he had a whole case for it and it was thrown out because that shit's just simply not true. However, people still run with this narrative because they just love to hate the guy because of the UFC Hivemind. I hope you guys are starting to see the trend I'm trying to talk about. And then my last point here, Dominic Reyes beat Jon Jones. That's a common sentence you'll hear within the community. It's just simply not true. Fans of the sport will watch the Dominic Reyes versus Jon Jones fight and they will say definitively that Reyes beat Jon Jones. And here's the thing. Do you think, as a casual viewer or a hardcore viewer, whatever it is, do you think that you actually know judging better than elected officials who do this for a living, who are like licensed by the state, by the government of whatever country? Do you think you know more than them? No, you don't. So I think I'd sooner trust those judges than I trust you. And the last large narrative around Jon Jones hate that people just seem to sheep herd follow over is the Tom Aspinall glaze. Towards the end of Jon Jones' career, he really was inept. And instead of fighting Tom Aspinall, who didn't really have that good a competition, but he still was the #1 #1 contender. He fought Stipe Miocic, who at the time was like 42 or something, making him a way easier opponent. And people were furious about this, which this has just aged horribly, you know? I don't want to get into it too much, but it's like, man, it's like, no, Jones would have beat Tom, but people will let their hate blind them to that fact and say, no, Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. And it's so funny because Tom Aspinall really built his fan base and career off this Jon Jones thing, which is crazy. How are you going to build your legacy off another man, you know? But since people hate Jon Jones, they look to Tom Aspinall and project this like, oh, Tom Aspinall is the most humble guy. Tom Aspinall is like the savior from demonic Jon Jones. But it's like, no, bro, Tom Aspinall is just like these trashy favela fighters where he got some money and he starts wearing designer. He gets the brightest, biggest, fakest veneers, you know? It's like, no, that's not someone who's humble. So, someone who's humble and nice doesn't start a whole hate campaign against another fighter to benefit themselves. And just like building a career off spreading negativity like that is crazy, but it's like the UFC Hivemind blinds these people to the fact that he's building his career off negativity and they just project this onto him. And it's like, this hate's just so undeserved, you know? Jon Jones is a great guy, good Christian guy, you know? Now this video is becoming very long, so I'm just gonna quickly mention the next few things about this UFC Hivemind. So this is like kind of like a if you know, you know part, because I'm not gonna fully explain it. But you have people hating on Mario Batista undeservingly. You have the narrative that Ilia Topuria is ducking Armin. People hate on the Apex, which is like a small venue in the Las Vegas headquarters. People hate on that for no reason, which makes no sense because it's like, bro, you're still getting great fights and you don't have the sound of the crowd. So it's like you're hearing these kicks and punches thrown and you can hear it in the mic nice. It's like crazy. It's like just as nice. And it's like you're still watching fights, watching the same promotion, just different venue. People like, that's such a good example of the UFC Hivemind hating, because it's always about hate too. It's always about negativity. Another narrative that this Hivemind likes to keep talking about is hating on Dana White as well. But it's like, yo, this guy like created the sport you're watching right now. You know, if anything, you should be thanking him. He's obviously doing the right moves because the sport is thriving. So those are all my examples. And these examples are perpetuated by online MMA influencers and YouTubers. And I feel like the fact that these narratives and these influencers and YouTubers are able to get so popular says a lot about the community. Because like I said, it's like negative narratives, you know, that spread negativity and hate. And it's like the fans of the sport elect these narratives to become popular. And more importantly, these influencers to become popular. Because if people didn't share these sentiments, these YouTubers and narratives would never get popular. So I think it says a lot about the fan base that they're just negative people, I suppose. And honestly, when I started this channel, I'm filming this video before even creating my YouTube channel. And it's like, I had the idea for this channel like a year ago. And a big part of it was I seen the negativity and I want to like create more positiveness in it. And I want to like celebrate the sport, you know, that we enjoy instead of hating on it like these people typically do. And hopefully I could break the hive mind. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So if it's these YouTubers and influencers creating these narratives, it's like you have to look at who's creating this. Negative people, you know, and they have their own biases and stuff and their views on life that things are so negative, you know, instead of looking at the positive. So it's like, yo, don't take these guys serious, man. These guys have negative outlooks on life and that's why they're making negative videos. And that's just like low energy shit, man. Like we should be watching positive shit. I wrapped it up pretty quickly, I know, but I really got all my points out. I guess my conclusion would be think about the media you're consuming and also think about things from a different perspective, you know. Don't just follow the most common narrative, because when you do that, you're really letting people think for you. And even if you agree with it, still try and think about this stuff from a different perspective. And yo, I recorded this on the inside of the camera, so I hope I wasn't looking at the viewfinder too much. Anyways, so please like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos and you agree with my message of trying to spread positivity in the community. And please like and comment for the algorithm as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video, and take care.